Good morning. This is John from the Springs Mennonite Church, and I'm here to share another passage from the book of Hebrews. I hope you've gotten a few things out of it. Today's something a little bit different and something that's really kind of important, I think. So let's look at Hebrews chapter 11 and just verse 13. It says, all these people died. Now, all these people, referring to the folks in the previous few verses, people from the Old Testament who walked and trusted God. All these people died still believing what God had promised them. They did not receive what was promised, but they saw it all from a distance and they welcomed it. They agreed that they were foreigners and nomads here on this earth. There's a couple of really interesting parts to this verse, and they apply to us today. It said all these people died still believing what God had promised them. I think people make a mistake when they think about God as one who answers their prayers the way they want them answered at the time frame that they want them answered. Now, I certainly sympathize with that. If someone is sick and I ask God to heal them, I want them to get well. I really do. Otherwise, I wouldn't have prayed that prayer. If someone's going through turmoil in their lives and I ask God to find a way out of it, I really want that. Ever since the invasion in Ukraine, I have prayed regularly for God to bring peace to that land. I haven't seen that yet, but I keep praying it. And here it says that they were still believing what God had promised them. God promises to hear our prayers, your prayers, my prayers, everybody's prayers. Doesn't matter whether they are childlike or sophisticated and elaborate. Doesn't matter whether it's something simple or something really complicated. You know, finding peace in Ukraine is going to be complicated. But I believe that God is going to answer that prayer. I hope, unlike this verse, I don't die still waiting for it to come. But then again, I don't know that. And when I pray, I ask God for whatever it is. And then I have to trust Him. I have to believe. I can't make my prayer happen. If I could, I'd just do that. If somebody's sick and I pray for them to get well, if I could make them well, I would just make them well. I wouldn't have to pray about it. And even doctors and nurses will tell you that they can do certain things, but they can't make somebody whole. The doc fixed my heart. He changed out a valve and did some other things. But he couldn't make it work like it did before. Only God could do that, and that seems to be what has happened. But so many times we think we know what God needs to do. Now, I don't know that it's because we're arrogant. I don't know if it's because we really think we know more than God. I just think it's because maybe we're impatient. At least in our culture, we have become an instant culture. We want what we want when we want it, and we don't want to wait for it. We don't like waiting. So many people like online shopping because they don't have to wait. I know a guy who wants to make doctor's appointments online, and he says, "Why should I have to waste my time trying to talk to somebody? Just set it up so I can go online, click on the time that suits me, and be done with it." Well, I think that's kind of an extreme, but I guess he doesn't. So this passage in Hebrews tells us that these wonderful saints of the Old Testament, they still believed, even though they died before they saw what God had promised. And then it goes on to say, said, though they didn't receive what God had promised. Now, keep in mind here, it's saying, Even though they didn't receive it, they kept praying for it. But even though they didn't see it, it says, but they saw it from a distance and welcomed it because they agreed that they were foreigners and nomads here on earth. See, here's the key to prayer. I know, believe me, I've talked to too many people to not know that we are so focused on this world, we can't really see the real one that's coming yet. These folks in the Old Testament were able to see the promise of the future. As I told someone recently, if we pray for somebody to be healed and they don't get healed and died, they really didn't get the second best option. Hear me? This world is only temporary. Now, I like it. It's the only world I've ever lived in. I'm not anxious to leave, but I do know that I will leave because for this world, I'm only a sojourner and a nomad. I'm only passing through to that which is yet to come. So, when I pray, I don't put my trust that God will answer my prayer this way at this time. I trust that God heard me, and I know that He'll answer me. It may take longer than my lifetime to answer it, but He'll still answer it. God will never leave you or me alone. He won't walk away from us. He won't decide, he's not worthy anymore. I'm not going to fool with him or her. He's always there. And he's there for you too, whether you know him as a real close friend or whether you don't know him at all. So I hope you'll think about this. Hope you have a really great day. If there's a need or concern we can help meet you, please let us know. We'll do everything we can as fast as we can to help meet your need. Thanks so much for listening. God bless you. I'll be back tomorrow one more time and finish up talking about Hebrews.